Performing poems may be easy for you. Most poems are designed to be performed. But what if you're assigned to perform a blog post, or a short story, or an essay? How will you perform those things? Most of prose materials are designed to be read, but we have to take note that reading is different from performing. We can read the text monotonously or with just using our minds. We can read the text on our own pace. And oftentimes, when we read long sentences or paragraphs, we just skim them. But as a performer who is bound to obediently follow the text, we need to go beyond reading it. We need to creatively perform the text and make people imagine the characters, setting, conflict, plot, and emotions invoked in every word, sentence, and paragraph spoken. Here are some of the elements that we can consider when analyzing, interpreting, and performing prose. The first thing to look at is style. Style basically means the manner of writing or speaking. But when it comes to analysis, style demonstrates the character of the persona or the author. When we look at the style of a text, we consider these things: the overall organization of areas, the steps in developing the central ideas, syntactical characteristics of the sentences, and word choice and relationship between words in a sentence. When we dissect a prose material for analysis, we need to be mindful of the units of thought, paragraphs which are major units, and sentences as minor units. Because your performance uses your body and your voice, you are also likely to be concerned with speech phrases, the way words combine, repeat, or rearrange the same sounds, and the location of stresses that clarify meaning. One challenge when performing prose is performing long sentences. Problems may arise because of the length, the grammatical construction, or the syntax of the sentences. So how do we solve this problem? Some solutions are in the sentences themselves. Is this a simple sentence? A complex one? A compound sentence? How long is the sentence? How are its components arranged? What does the order of words tell you about the importance and impression? Are more elaborate structural devices used, such as parallelism or balanced construction? Your answers guide your use of pause, rate, emphasis, and inflection in your performance. Answering these questions can also give you clues about the narrator's speaking style and possible ways to represent them in your performances. That is why dissecting the material into major and minor units of thought for analysis is important, because that is already a step in rehearsing the text. Aside from dissecting the text for analysis, using your pitch and vocal quality are useful when performing long sentences. The goal is to sustain the meaning of a sentence or paragraph, and the key to sustaining is by looking at speech phrases. Speech phrases are divisions of a sentence and is dictated by its punctuation, its grammatical structure, and the need to make mood and idea clear to an audience. When we read the text for performance, it is important to identify and locate the punctuations used. However, we need to take note that punctuations are more for the eye than for the ear. In other words, there are no rules on what you should do whenever you see a period, comma, or other punctuation marks. Sometimes punctuation marks demand a pause. Sometimes it demands a change of pitch, or tempo, or volume. My tip is to explore and make use of your pitch and vocal quality when you read long sentences instead of just pausing yourself, then read again. But always remember, your action, whether it's a pause or change of pitch or whatsoever, should reflect or expose the connotative meaning of the words, sentences, and paragraphs the author has intended. Another thing to look at is rhythm. All well-written prose has rhythm, not the formal patterned rhythm of poetry, but a controlled flow of words that makes relationships clear and causes emphasis to fall on important words. There are two types of rhythm, the rhythm of content, which is the organization and progression of thoughts and emotions, and the rhythm of structure, which is the grouping of words and pauses. Cadence or flow of sound can be found in the rhythm of structure. When we look at rhythm in prose, particularly rhythm of structure, we identify the stress of words in sentences. Stress in prose results from a number of factors: the demands of proper pronunciation, the need for clarity, and the development of contrast or the combining of particular sounds. Aside from style and rhythm, we also look at writing. Most writing can be roughly classified as dialogue, narration, or description. Dialogue involves characters talking to characters. Narration involves a storyteller relating a tale or story, and description involves a speaker focusing attention on sensory experience. Descriptive writing depicts the qualities of a person, place, or object in terms of senses. After examining and analyzing the style, rhythm, and writing of prose, we need to identify the type of prose that we're going to perform. There are 6 general types of prose that we will explore in this lecture: factual prose, personal essays, journal diaries and letters, oral histories, folk tales, and short stories and novels. We will also look at the strategies on how to analyze or perform these types of prose. Factual prose is writing in which the author gives verifiable information. The interpreter is more likely to deal with prose in which the author is concerned with the implication or interpretation of the facts. Sometimes, the facts provide a touch of humor or satire. In other cases, the implied comment of the author is the desired end. The interpreter discovers how the author arranges and shapes the information and ensures that this same purpose is communicated to the audience. Personal essays can be topics such as broad humor, philosophy, politics, and religion. The writer's personality and values are reflected in the facts and concrete objects that have been selected. Such associations and connotations lead readers and listeners beyond the denotations of words and phrases. Journals, diaries, and letters often make excellent selections for performance because they provide intimate glimpses into special moments in the lives of interesting people. They are likely to be less formal. A careful examination of the elements of style helps to learn about the writer's personality and reveals attitudes and degrees of emotional involvement. Oral histories are testimonies, depositions, and transcripts. Oral history frequently flourish where archives are housed and often can be the source of impressive and moving material for performance. The key technique in performing oral histories is editing the primary text and converting them into texts that can be performed. Folk tales are oral traditional stories from a certain culture. Folk tales, like folk songs, appeal to the ear and to human interest in organizing experience and learning from encounters with the world. Storytellers mine the vast resources of folk tales, which live in all cultures and have thrived in all times. And lastly, short stories and novels are the most common type of prose that interpreters usually select in their performance. The interpreter embodies and evokes the persona in all prose selections. That persona mentioned is the narrator. We will now focus on performing the most common type of prose that interpreters usually perform, which is narration. Our job as performers is not just to retell a story, but to make our audience as future storytellers. Your performance is good when your audience can retell the story you perform. When you perform narration, you need to answer 5 important questions. Who is telling the story and to whom? What is going on here exactly? What sort of people live in the story? What are they saying to each other? And where is all of this taking place? When you can answer them fully, you will be amply prepared with your analysis and performance. To answer the first question, we need to look at the point of view of the story. Every narrator sets for us by the position from which the action is viewed and by his or her unique personality, a characteristic way of showing and telling. In turn, this characteristic way of telling a story tells us more about the narrator too. That is why point of view is important in analyzing the character. The narrator can be an objective observer or an omniscient character or a main character or a minor character of the story. To answer the second question, we need to look at the subject matter or what the story is about. The subject matter controls the reader's and writer's focus or center of interest. We also look at the theme of the narration. The theme is the underlying why in the story. It is a way of managing the subject matter so that it says something in particular about human relationships and values. We also look at the sequences of the narration, which can be identified as action, plot, crisis, and conflict. To answer the third question, we need to identify the characters involved. After identifying, we need to describe their physical attributes, then their actions, then their attitudes, and explore the depth and development of the characters in the story. To answer the fourth question, we need to examine the dialogue. Almost every narrator at some point allows the characters to speak for themselves, providing the audience immediate access to the scene of the story, affording variety through distinctive personalities and speech rhythms, and emphasizing vividness in characterization. There are three types of dialogue in a prose material: direct discourse, which is the actual quote of the character; indirect discourse, or the report of words the character spoke; and narrator transformed discourse, which retains only the character's idea and delivered it into the narrator's own language. To answer the final question, we need to identify the setting of the story. Setting is a matter not only of local but also of style. Narrators see the world through various kinds of spectacles. Where they allow their characters to interact and speak is as much a part of the tale as it is a choice of the teller. The elements we need to consider as we prepare for our performance are the style, rhythm, type of prose, point of view, theme, plot, characters, dialogue, and setting. A careful analysis will make our preparation more efficient. There are no shortcuts to a successful performance. To perform prose, you need to capture the world of your material, and to do that, you need to develop a keen visual and responsive physical sense so that in performance, the whirling scene is all around you and your audience. Use your gestures, the space, and description to make your audience imagine the setting. You cannot make your audience imagine if you yourself do not imagine.